circle answering our questions. So Jesus, or for example, Jesus, if you have any questions, Lori can help you answer the question. So remember, we need to be cooperating as we're doing this review. So let's go ahead and get started. So I want you guys to take a look at these rocks. Now hypothesize with me, where do you think these rocks could have came from? Now look at the color of the rock, the shape of the rock, what it's made out of. So I'm going to put these on the table right here. Jesus, what do you think? Where do you think the rocks could have came from?
Earth.
Earth.
The
And
moon.
Lori, what do you think?
The moon.
Okay, Jesus, why do you think they came from the Earth?
Because there's a lot of rocks on Earth.
Okay, and Lori, what do you think?
Well, it's white like the moon.
Okay, so these rocks actually came from the Earth. So we know that these rocks came from the Earth because this is a special type of rock. It's marble. So marble is a type of metamorphic rock. And on the moon only has one certain type of rock. That's called basalt. It's a type of igneous rock. So I'm going to place these on the table in front of you. So if you just look at the Earth and the moon, tell me which one do you think is older?
The earth.
Lori, why do you think the Earth is older?
Because it has a bunch of stuff like water and continents.
Okay, Jesus, what do you think?
I think the moon,
Why do you think the moon is older?
because it has craters or holes on it.
Okay, so scientists believe that billions of years ago, so about 4.53 billion years ago, the Earth was a giant piece of molten rock. And then an asteroid came and banged a huge chunk out of it. So the huge chunk broke away and went into space. And that was what formed the moon. So now what do you think? Do you think the moon or the Earth is older?
Earth.
The earth.
Good, the Earth is older. The Earth is 4.65 billion years old, and the moon is 4.53 million years old. So like we were talking about before, the moon was created whenever a meteorite hit the Earth, and a giant piece broke off of it. So now, knowing that the moon came from the Earth, what do you guys think are similarities between the structures of the moon and the Earth?
They're both round.
Okay, they're both round, good Jesus.
It looks like they both have layers.
Right, they all have layers. So the Earth and the moon are similar in that they're all divided into 3 types of layers. So Jesus, can you tell me what those 3 layers are?
The mantle, the crust, and the core.
Good. And Lori, can you point to the crust? So the crust is this outer layer. The mantle is this middle layer, and then the core is the circle in the middle. So Jesus, where could you find all of the rocks? So all of these types of rocks on the Earth.
And the crust.
On the crust, right. Okay, so if we look at the crust, that's where we find all the different types of rocks. So let's talk about the different types of rocks that are on the moon and the different types of rocks that are on the Earth. So the soil of the moon is what type of soil?
It's igneous.
Right, and how do we know that that's an igneous soil? How do we know that's igneous rocks?
That's what it says on the paper.
So what do we think about the soil on the Earth? Do you think the same types of soils are on the moon as well?
No.
Maybe.
So let's look at what types of soils are on the Earth. So what makes up the soil on the Earth?
Nutrients.
Nutrients? What sort of nutrients? What makes up the nutrients on the Earth?
Dead organisms, like we learned in the carbon cycle.
Exactly, right, the dead organisms, and then also,
And there's dirt and rocks in it too.
right, like the weathered rocks like you learned in the weathering and erosion. And then what about the types of soil on the moon?
It's not the same because they don't have dead things on the soil.
Perfect, Jesus. So the soil on the moon is completely weathered down. So it's kind of like a sandy material rather than all the decomposed bits and weathered rocks that are a combined mixture in the Earth's soil. So let's talk about the sorts of rocks that we might find on the Earth versus the rocks we might find on the moon. So let's start with the 3 types of rocks that are on the Earth. So who can name some of the rocks that we have on the Earth? Jesus.
We have igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic.
Right, so Lori, can you tell me why we might see all these different types of rocks on the earth?
Because of everything that's part of the earth, like volcanoes and stuff.
Right, so the earth has a lot of different landforms, like tectonic plates that make volcanoes and oceans and rivers and valleys, right? So we have a lot of different factors that can make different types of rocks. And what about the moon?
Only has one rock,
And what type of rock is that?
basalt.
Good. And basalt is what type of rock?
Well, if it was made when it was hot, it was an igneous rock.
But why is it igneous if there's no volcanoes on the moon?
Because whenever it's igneous, even though there aren't any volcanoes on the moon, because the moon was originally just a piece of molten rock. So it itself is a giant piece of molten rock in the sky. So we mentioned the different types of landforms that are on the earth. So Lori, can you remind us of what some of those landforms were?
Volcanoes and mountains.
Good. And Jesus, can you think of any more?
Rivers and valleys.
Okay. So what sorts of landforms are on the moon?
It looks like it has some mountains.
Maybe has some mountains. How do you think that those could have been formed?
Maybe when they got hit, does it get hit with like asteroids?
So the moon has the moon isn't exactly smooth. It has a bunch of holes in it, and those holes came from different asteroids and meteors bumping into it and breaking pieces off.
Does that mean it has mountains and earthquakes too?
So the moon doesn't have earthquakes because it has no plate tectonics that are moving. And these might look like mountains, but they're actually craters made from whenever the meteors hit it and left a big dent. So, Jesus, can you tell me why asteroids hit the moon so much, but then they don't hit the Earth as much? Why don't we have to worry about getting hit by meteors?
They do hit the earth because I saw on the news one time and I saw a movie about it.
Right, so it happens very rarely, so why don't we have to worry about it happening every single day?
Maybe because we have like clouds.
Okay, clouds that are protecting us. That's a good start. It's actually because we have an atmosphere. So whenever the meteors come and they reach into the Earth's atmosphere, they combust whenever they hit it, and then they break into small pieces, and they don't even reach the Earth most times. On the moon doesn't have as much of an atmosphere. So because the moon doesn't have as much of an atmosphere, the meteors can just go right through and hit the moon. Lori, can you tell me why Earth has such a big atmosphere and the moon doesn't have very much of one?
Because there's more air around the earth.
Okay, there's more air around the Earth. Jesus, can you help Lori?
Because we have gravity. That's why we don't bounce either.
So the gravity is keeping the atmosphere close by. So let's look at this picture. Here is an illustration of the Earth's gravitational pull versus the moon's. So like Jesus said, the Earth's gravitational pull is keeping the atmosphere down. So it's keeping it close to us. And then the moon, because it doesn't have such a big gravitational pull, the atmosphere particles are free to just fly everywhere and just to not stay close to the moon. So these little circles represent all the gas particles that are in our atmosphere. So whenever asteroids come and they come and reach towards the Earth, they actually get broken down by the gas particles, and that's why they don't end up hitting the Earth as much as they do on the moon. All right, now that we've reviewed all the information we need to know, let's go ahead and answer some questions. So I want everyone to look with me and answer these questions. So discuss amongst yourselves. What would happen if there was weak gravity on the Earth?
We would get hit with asteroids.
We would fly.
Good. What would happen if there was no living thing on Earth?
We would have different soil.
Okay, different soil. What else?
We wouldn't have an atmosphere.
Well, we would have an atmosphere, but it might just be made of different chemicals or made of different gas particles. And what would happen if there was no atmosphere on Earth?
We would get destroyed by asteroids and meteors.
Good. We would be much more susceptible to getting hit by asteroids and meteors. And what would happen if there were no or what would happen if there were plate tectonics on the moon?
The moon might have mountains and volcanoes
And earthquakes.
and earthquakes.
Good, guys. All right, that's all we have for this station, so go ahead and rotate to your next station.